And we're live. All right. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our live chat for the week of May 25th, 2022. Just a reminder, next week we will not have a live chat. We're going to take a week off and then come back. So if you're looking for a live chat for next week, we won't be taking a little break, 1 week break, and then we'll be right back. But of course, all other updates will be forthcoming, so don't worry about that. So there's a couple of things we're going to talk about tonight. We'll talk about the threat for tropical weather and some signs possibly of some tropical disturbances in the Gulf just to keep an eye on. We'll also talk about the threat for severe weather on Friday night into Saturday morning and the Memorial Day weekend, because I've been getting a lot of questions about that. And overall, taking your questions, and then we'll see where we go from there. So I hope everyone is having a lovely evening. It is certainly beautiful out there. Taking a look at the latest tropics. Zoom in. And you can see not much going on right now, which you would expect for this time of year. This is the first time since I think 2014 where we haven't seen a lot of activity, a lot of early activity. Sometimes we've seen a tropical storm or subtropical storm try to develop late May and early June, right around this time period. The GFS was actually hinting at that, but that never came to fruition. And a lot of that is because we have a lot of dust from Africa coming across the Atlantic and kind of inhibiting a lot of the development. We also have a intertropical convergence zone, which is suppressed to the south, which you would expect for this time of year. And we have some pretty good shear over the Caribbean, so we're not really expecting all that much in terms of development over at least the next 5 to 7 days. But the MJO does have my attention, because as we go into June, we're going to be in phases 7 and 8. And these are favorable phases for tropical development, especially around the Western Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, especially down towards the Bay of Campeche, and parts of the Western Atlantic. They can form via low pressure systems forming off of old cold front boundaries. They can develop off of tropical waves. So it's something that has my attention for early June for some activity. And if we take a look at some of the forecasts out here for tropical development, I'll pull this up from 12Z, and you can see that there's some hints of possibly some tropical development in the Gulf of Mexico. Not a lot in the Atlantic, which you would expect for this time of year, but you can see that there is that potential popping up and kind of lingering over the Western Atlantic, which lines up pretty nicely with the evolution of the MJO state. Now, remember, when you're using the MJO, you want to alter the expectations based on the La Nina state that we are in, which is a moderate La Nina. So you have to assume a stronger Western Atlantic ridge, even though that the polar jet stream is more active. So a couple of things that we're going to have to be watching out for in early June would be a tropical, possible subtropical hybrid, especially around the east coast of the United States. I'd watch out for a slow-moving low-pressure system, and I would not be surprised if the first full weekend of June features a torrential rainfall event in this type of scenario. And with this type of influence from the MJO, pull that up here, I expect a very volatile temperature regime. In other words, don't be surprised if we constantly see temperatures jump up into the mid-90s and then crash into the 50s for lows the next day and 70s for highs with showers throughout the region. A very active pattern, very volatile pattern, one that will likely drive anyone who's trying to forecast temperatures 5 to 10 days out complete insanity, because temperatures are going to be wavering all over the place. Now remember, 10 days ago, the forecast for this time period were for temperatures in the 80s and 90s, and that failed spectacularly. And now, well, I mean, look, it's absolutely beautiful. Temperatures in the 50s. Okay, and the reason why, let me pull up a 500 millibar pattern here, because I want to kind of illustrate this really nicely. We'll use the European ensembles here. That's an interesting change. I think they changed the colors. Anyway, the reason why this is important is because what you're going to end up with is a clash between this Western Atlantic ridge and this trough here. And what will happen is the model guidance, especially if you get beyond 10 days and out to 15 days, you start ending up with a more robust Western Atlantic ridge than what's in reality. So don't be surprised if you start to see these enhanced temperature regime forecasts 10 days out, 7 days out, when in reality the Western Atlantic ridge is weaker. That takes us to our severe threat coming up for the region on Friday evening. And here we have our setup here already initializing here. We have perfect setup with our maritime air building down towards the Carolinas. That's starting to give way with more tropical air surging northward. And then here's our cold front and upper level low. Now the idea here, let me pull this up, is that this upper level low will march its way through the Ohio River Valley and then get towards our area by basically Friday night into Saturday morning. While that evolution is ongoing, it's going to introduce more shear, because by the time this upper low hits, it's going to start to open up as a trough. And what you're going to end up with is an environment where you have winds coming from the south at the surface and from the west-northwest at 500 millibars, which is a cyclonic flow, which is going to increase your shear. At that same time period, you're also going to feature precipitable water values peaking. And let me pull that up real fast. And here we go. So they're going to be rising to around 2 inches, possibly up to 2.1 inches. So we have an environment set up where you have vertical wind shear, you have strong PVA, you have strong thermal gradient setting up during this time period. And we'll go back here. You can see the thermal gradient coming in. And so when you have the combinations of these factors, the only thing we're really missing here is widespread instability, because the movement of this cold front is going to be from 6 p.m. to midnight. Not exactly your best times for maximizing instability in the atmosphere. So what I see evolving here, we'll pull this up here. And in fact, let's walk through the NAM here as a good convective model. That you end up with this line of thunderstorms that's going to be marching through. Not everyone can expect severe weather, and quite frankly, I think your best shot is going to be eastern Pennsylvania and western New Jersey. The coast is going to become more stable quicker. But I see this as a very heavy rainfall event, and a couple of cells reaching severe levels. Okay, this is not a widespread severe thunderstorm event, but I do know that people like to head down to the shore on Friday and like to maybe start partying a little bit early for the holiday weekend. So just understand that this threat is something to really monitor, like 8, 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the evening. As far as the rest of the weekend, I'm keeping an eye on the overall theme here. But I'm not seeing support for any type of widespread rainfall or anything like that once we get past Saturday morning. Once we get past Saturday morning, where we are primarily dealing with instability showers in the afternoon, I don't see this as being a washout, but your best days are clearly going to be Sunday and Monday with high pressure sinking over the region. So if you have outdoor plans for this weekend, I'd pretty much focus them on Sunday and Monday. Saturday, Friday night to Saturday morning is going to be stormy. Saturday afternoon, unsettled with mixed sun clouds and scattered showers around the region. Sunday and Monday, absolutely beautiful. So that's how we're looking at it in terms of the weather pattern. And then moving forward, again, we'll have to see what happens down here in the Gulf of Mexico, see what's kind of trying to bubble up here. And in the meantime, we're going to continue to keep an eye on the potential here for our tropical air masses trying to surge northward and then get beaten down really quickly. I think that's going to be a theme for much of this summer, to be honest with you, is a constant threat for us to see a surge of hot, humid air, heat index spiking up towards 100, but only lasting a day or so before it gets knocked right back down. And technically, that actually is going to have the potential of limiting heat waves this summer. But don't be surprised if we have anomalies generally above normal this summer, because the morning lows are going to be so warm. With all the moisture in the air, we're going to have a lot of record high low temperatures this summer, much like what we saw the previous 2 summers with all the humidity trapped in the atmosphere. So with that, I'm going to take some of your questions, and we'll see what questions you might have. Let's see here. And Card has a few interesting questions here. And of course, after I'm done, I will check out, wow, a very active chat in the YouTube area. So I'll definitely check that out too. So let's see what we got here. Looking at some of the differences in temperatures between the upper levels and the lower levels, some massive differences, especially over the mid-latitudes. Absolutely. The reason why you're seeing different classes of air masses, and that's really, really impressive over the northern mid-Atlantic. And the reason why is that at the northern mid-Atlantic, you're getting an influence from maritime air masses like what you have here, but from 700 millibars on up to about 250 millibars, the winds are coming in from the west-southwest. So we're getting a transport incoming more from the Gulf of Mexico in the mid and upper levels. Meanwhile, the lower levels are getting an influence more from the Atlantic. That's going to be a constant theme, and that's why we've seen a lot of cloud cover overall over the past several weeks, because we're seeing this interaction continue to set up. Any sign that material from the big volcanic eruption is influencing the upper level pattern at all? Nothing concrete. I know that there's plenty of research on that. The force certainly was strong enough to get up into the upper portions of the atmosphere, but we haven't seen a lot in terms of influence from like ash clouds or anything of that nature. And there really isn't any data to suggest a major influence. There hasn't been any type of indication on ozone levels or anything of that nature. So right now, nothing that really stands out. Do you anticipate that storms that form this summer overperform due to very cold air aloft at higher latitudes? Depends what you mean by overperform. I expect that there's going to be thunderstorms that are going to be strong enough to suppress other thunderstorms and create what you would call, less than impressive or a busted forecast because someone didn't get a thunderstorm in their backyard. I think that we're going to have an environment that is favorable where individual thunderstorms are going to have the ability to maximize their strength. But remember, when you have an individual thunderstorm becoming extremely intense, that typically translates to thunderstorms around that individual thunderstorm weakening. So I would not be surprised if you get like a thunderstorm or two that can produce a tornado, that produces impressive heavy rainfall, but then other locations miss out on the severe event, which isn't so bad, because of the suppression influence of that one powerful storm. Instability in the atmosphere will have the potential to be maximized. The question is, how does that influence the rest of the line as it develops? And that's something that we're just going to have to monitor as we go through. I know it's outside your usual coverage area, but any thoughts on Indianapolis Sunday morning, afternoon, and Charlotte, North Carolina late Sunday afternoon, evening, night? Indy 500. They should. I thought that's in. Oh, I didn't know. Indy 500. I thought that's like in the late summer or something. There's a Coke 600. Do they have a Pepsi 600? How about a root beer? Root beer 600? I like root beer. Let's take a look here. I haven't checked. What? I like root beer. Did you have a root beer? How about a root beer float 600? That'd be fun.
A&W.
Huh?
A&W.
A&W root beer 600.
I know that they endorse people on YouTube's lighting up.
Okay, I'll check it out in just a moment. Let's see here. Let's see. Sunday. See, in Indianapolis, it looks good for Indianapolis and looks good for North Carolina. So, I mean, they'll be in cars, so I'm assuming they have windshield wipers. So they should be fine with the rain. But there isn't going to be any rain. It looks like it's going to be pleasant conditions. We'll be very happy if we don't get any lengthy heat waves. Better warm and muggy than hot and muggy. I would prefer cool and damp for the summer. Now, I know a lot of people like going to the beach, but I personally do not enjoy hot and humid summers, warm and humid, or anything of that nature. Give me the conditions we have now all summer, and I am very happy. Very, very happy. Can't race to 200 miles per hour rain on the oval. But, that'll be interesting. What if you put skis on? Anyway. Wow. Well, it looks like YouTube has really lit up. Let's see what type of questions we have here. Here's a good question from Mark D. I'm probably saying this wrong. D. Cheria. What levels of severe weather will it be for Friday night? Okay. Severe weather in terms of what I'm expecting. I don't see this as tornadic. I see this as a limited downburst wind threat. What that basically means is that you're lifting all this moisture in the atmosphere, right? And you're lifting it up to the higher levels of the atmosphere. So here's our moisture, right? You're lifting it way up here, right? And what happens is that moisture from the surface cools. And when it cools, it eventually slams to the ground. And when that happens, you get this wind expanding out from the base of the thunderstorm that can produce wind gusts over 65 miles per hour. I think it's an isolated threat, but it's a significant one to keep an eye on. The other threats would be heavy rainfall and frequent lightning. It could be some small hail, but I think the primary threat would be the straight line wind gust threat. Let's see here. Is there any heat wave soon? There's some limited sustained heat expected for Tuesday through Thursday. Now, we could see a break in that on Wednesday with a backdoor cold front, especially if you're in Connecticut, Long Island, maybe the Jersey Shore. So let's say, you get a day in the 90s, then we cool off, then back into the mid 90s again. Again, that's going to depend on the evolution of a backdoor cold front during that time period, and then a boundary that's going to kind of linger around the region. So your next threat really for hot and humid weather conditions will be that first week of June, right after Memorial Day. But I don't see it as something that's sustained in terms of being an official heat wave, especially if we get that influence of that backdoor cold front. So we'll have to keep an eye on it, see how it evolves. Let's see. The Weather Channel is forecasting above normal temperatures for June through August. I would agree with that in a broad sense of the term. See, here's the thing when it comes to above normal temperatures. When people think above normal temperatures, they think like, oh, that means that we're going to be in the 90s because they think of the highs. No one really thinks of the lows because they were asleep. It's cooler. No one really focuses on that. But when you're looking at temperature anomalies, it's for a 24-hour period, consolidated and averaged out. So if your low temperatures are in the 70s constantly, let's say they're constantly at 75, but your high temperatures because of the marine influence are around 80, 82, it doesn't feel like an above normal summer. It doesn't feel like it's hot because, most of the day you're hanging around and it's 82 degrees out, right? It's kind of cloudy, mixed with sun clouds, a little bit humid out, kind of tropical feel to it, but it's not oppressive like as if it's like 95 degrees. But the averages would keep you above normal because your low temperatures are so warm. Let's see. The summer forecast has already been issued. Definitely check it out for premium members. It's in the seasonal chat, seasonal dashboard. Could the timing of storms change Friday night to Saturday? Oh, absolutely. There's always that chance of timing when it comes to mesoscale systems and mesoscale low pressure systems. So could the thunderstorms come in earlier, later? Absolutely, yes. It's something that we're going to keep on monitoring as we move through the next couple of days, the next 48 hours. Right now, there's pretty strong agreement on the idea of Friday evening after 6 p.m. onward through about 2 a.m. on Saturday for your showers and thunderstorms to move through. There is strong agreement with the GFS, the European, the NAM, the HRR guidance on the periphery, the RGEM, and the CMC. So that's quite a few models. And also if you want to throw in the ensembles as well. So that's pretty strong agreement. But yeah, we'll definitely have to watch to see the speed of the cold front and the possibility of, let's say, a prefrontal trough developing, which kind of initiates the thunderstorms earlier than forecasted, which could zap the original line that we were looking for with the cold front. We saw that with the previous severe thunderstorm event, so it's certainly something that we're going to keep an eye on. And in terms of severity, right now, the only way I see this being a more severe event is if these thunderstorms develop earlier, let's say around 3, 4 p.m., because then if they develop and start moving through the region, let's say moving into the Delaware River Valley at 3 or 4 o'clock, you're maximizing the potential for instability, which means you have the potential for maximizing your storms and creating a more robust threat. But again, right now I don't have any data to support that type of scenario. And back to the live chat. All right. Any additional thoughts on La Nina and how it will evolve? Premium members know I talked about this a couple of days ago. The La Nina right now in terms of average data, and let me see if I can pull this up here. Here we go. Okay. In terms of the observations here, not really seeing a whole lot of change. There's some subsurface Kelvin wave influence that we're keeping an eye on. But overall, the average has not changed all that much. The latest model guidance does suggest of weakening of the La Nina in the fall and towards the winter. I think it's a little bit too aggressive compared to what I'm seeing with the observations. And one of the bellwethers I'm always looking for is the SOI data. Again, the SOI data is the pressure indication from the influence of La Nina. So right now, I have daily contributions ranging anywhere from, let's say, about 6.5 to 33, which is pretty strong. Your monthly average is around 19. Your seasonal average is around 16. Those are all indications of a moderate La Nina. What I would be looking for is in a steady weakening is to start seeing more negative daily contributions, which we haven't seen in, well, we haven't seen it in over a month. So the fact we haven't seen any negative contributions at all would suggest that we don't really have any indication right now of any type of weakening happening in the atmosphere of our La Nina influence. And we certainly don't see any subsurface influence. We're seeing some stabilization, but nothing that would suggest any type of rapid weakening. But some model guidance is suggesting that. So we're keeping an eye on it for late fall. I will say this, and let me pull up this right here. See what's going on in the Indian Ocean with this cooling? This La Nina initially was kickstarted by our IOD, which is the evolution of our sea surface temperatures in the Indian Ocean, going well above normal. And of course, with well above normal temperatures, you get cyclones or tropical low pressure systems. Well, they've had quite a few, and that has led to a lot of cooling in the Indian Ocean. If this cooling continues, then that would reduce the support for a sustained La Nina, which then therefore would lead to the transition of a weakening La Nina. There is literally no support whatsoever in any way, shape, or form of an El Nino. I want to get that out of the way. But what this could support, if we continue to see this over the next couple of weeks, is a reduction of support for suppression of convection around the dateline and a weakening of the cold anomalies here, which would therefore support maybe a cold neutral state by the time you get to winter. But there is no support and no data as of right now to support any type of rapid weakening of La Nina. What you see here is what you get for the summer and likely into early fall. So that's where we are right now. We have recently had some recent summers exactly like you have been describing. Very few true hot days, but warm overnight lows. So they were very much above normal average for the summer season. We've seen that for a couple of years now. Any thoughts on the potential early season tropical development and what that could do? There is potential in early June. I'd keep an eye on the Gulf of Mexico, and the impacts on us would primarily be the potential for remnant rainfall from these low pressure systems. I don't see any type of direct impact on the northern Mid-Atlantic right now, but you have all these different air mass clashes. You get a tropical low pressure system to pump up the tropical air masses involved in that evolution, and you can easily end up with a scenario where you have a maritime air mass trying to hold on over the northern Mid-Atlantic, tropical moisture from a remnant low pressure system lifting northward, and a polar air mass coming in from the west. That could lead to a whole lot of rain for early June, which is why I would suggest well above normal rainfall potential for early June. Nothing specific, though. All right, I'm just kind of giving you what the overall theme of the atmosphere would support. Let's check out YouTube. All right, let's see here. It looks like we got our questions answered on YouTube. Will La Nina last till winter? It's really rare for La Nina to last that long. We're kind of in a new environment, so I don't want to say no, not at all. But based on past data and past climatology, that this type of environment usually starts to give way for the winter, and you end up with a cold neutral or a neutral environment from La Nina. You guys hear that? Our ice cream truck guy is back. It must be summer. He's probably coming around at 9 p.m. It's 8:30 p.m. He's only 30 minutes off. Pollen is very high. Yeah, unfortunately, my wife can attest to that. And I can basically say that Yeah, that's not ending anytime soon. We could definitely use the rain just to clear out some of this pollen. That is for sure. But then again, then you got the mold, so that's not good either. Not the best time for allergy season, I can tell you that much. What is the soil water saturation level? Is it as high as it was this time last year? No, not yet. It is not, but we're nowhere near drought level either, so that's good. Last year, the saturated soil resulted in a lot of flooding events just because it didn't take a lot of rain to get flooding in some areas. Yeah, remember that. We're not at that stage yet. You throw in a couple of tropical lows and we will be very easily. But right now, I'd say we're pretty much near normal. We did have some fire danger concerns earlier on. So it wasn't like we were super saturated in our environment. But right now, the water table is pretty much where you'd want to be for this time of year. Let's see here. With the conditions of La Nina remaining the way it is right now, will this then allow for a lessening of the drought conditions on the East Coast? Drought conditions on the East Coast are influenced by a variety of factors, from the state of La Nina to the AMO, which would support more drought conditions over the southeast because of our western Atlantic ridge, and also the evolution of the MJO. So a combination of these factors should support for near to above normal rainfall for the northern Mid-Atlantic and parts of the southern Mid-Atlantic. But I'd say from North Carolina on southward, I would expect some concerns of droughts, unless, of course, our active tropical season overcomes that influence and you get a lot of these tropical downpours like what we saw in Georgia and North Carolina and Alabama the past couple of days with a semi-tropical disturbance, not a full-fledged low-pressure system, but plenty of tropical moisture. When will the pollen end? Fall, right? I would think. I would say fall. Will Connecticut get several tornadoes like last year? It's possible. I have no data to suggest yes or no, but it's certainly possible. Your ice cream truck plays different music than the one that comes around by us. Yeah, it's a unique one, that is for sure. I tell you what, the day we get a house and we move out of here, I am not going to miss that ice cream truck. It doesn't make sense to have an ice cream truck. All right, let me just go on a little rant here. We have a ShopRite right by us with tons of ice cream. 7-Eleven, tons of ice cream. You can get a huge vat of ice cream for what you can get on one bar on that ice cream truck. So why get an ice cream bar from an ice cream truck when you can literally go across the street to ShopRite, literally across the street, and get a huge vat of ice cream for the same thing? And then you can put your own sprinkles and everything else and just just go to town. I don't get it.
Well, more so that the ice cream truck comes through like several times a day on
Yeah.
this
It's very,
stretch alone.
it's
It
constant.
doesn't make sense.
In the winter. I don't know. That guy has a hell of a business. He must do amazing marketing. Do you think that New Jersey would see tornadoes or heavy thunderstorms throughout the summer? It's possible. I'm not sure. See, when I get that type of question, I'm not sure what type of answer one is looking for. If you're looking for like a definite yes, there will be tornadoes, I can't do that. That's mesoscale and microscale forecasting that, let alone weeks or months out ahead. How about hours out? Okay, hours out. You don't know that answer confidently because you have too many factors involved. There are some summers where everything lines up just right, and you get these. What happens is that you get these thunderstorms to set up, and they start to create natural boundaries of moisture. Okay, moisture gradients. Sometimes they set up right around freehold. Here, let me pull up this radar here. I'm going to zoom in. zoom in because I want to show you something. Okay, so sometimes this is really cool. You get kind of this bowl feature right here in freehold, okay? And what happens with this bowl feature is that it allows moisture to get trapped in here. Now this leads to a moisture gradient right around your geographical gradient, which you can see here, the elevation rising a bit here, and your moisture from the Atlantic is able to zone in here. Now the combination of these factors plus sea breeze fronts leads to multiple gradients that set up. These gradients can cause winds to veer to the west, to the northeast, and it can lead to cyclonic circulation. It can also counteract each other. And you really don't know until you actually start to see the line form and see how they interact. But because of these different boundaries, sometimes they interact to enhance thunderstorms, and you can end up with a lot of enhancement here around the Delaware River, where you have factors like the urban heat island effect from Trenton down to Philadelphia. That influence here enhances your thermal gradient. So now you have a moisture gradient, sea breeze front, thermal gradient from the urban heat island effect, and then you have all your other mesoscale and synoptic features all interacting in this feature. Sometimes they line up just right, and you get a string of tornadoes over southeastern Pennsylvania and western New Jersey. But sometimes they don't interact just right, and what you end up with is a collapsing thunderstorm. The line approaches, and then it runs into all these different features interacting, and it fizzes out. The problem is chaos. You see, the best way to describe this is that get yourself a ball, and then get yourself a water droplet, and then try to predict where that water droplet will go when it hits the top of that ball. And see how well you do. And keep on doing it. Now, what happens is that water droplet initially falls. Well, that creates a little crease of moisture on the surface, which starts to influence the other drops that fall. But how do they influence it? Do they counteract? Does it try to find a new path? Well, that is what chaos is. And that's what we're talking about here. So, is an environment favorable for severe thunderstorms? Yes. Can I say, well, are we going to expect a lot of hail or tornadoes or frequent lightning? I can't say for certain because there's far too many factors involved in such a forecast to give you any confident answer. What I can say is that you have tropical moisture, you have strong short waves, and you got a lot of different air mass clashes. So the potential's there. That's the best I could say. Let's see here. Spoke with a fisherman friend of mine. This is from Rob Allen. The species of fish in the water right now is extremely earlier than normal, which is a sign of subsurface waters are very warm. The Gulf Stream has been found to get pushed a little bit further west thanks to our Western Atlantic Ridge. So I definitely can see that. Says he hasn't seen this type of activity since 2012. Too many warning signs for later this summer for tropical activity. I don't like it. There's a couple of factors here to consider. And I agree with you on the Gulf Stream influence. And just so we all are on the same page, let me pull up the Gulf Stream here. Let's see. We'll do oceans, sea surface temperatures. There we go. Perfect. Okay. What we're watching for, this is the Gulf Stream, which, as you can see, despite what some media reports have suggested, is more than alive and well and working. Now, what we're watching out for and what your fisherman is noting is this area right here. right down here. Let's see if we can get more of a HD on there. This feature right here, which is influencing the rest of the waters at the subsurface, which will eventually come to the surface. Now, in terms of temperature anomalies, and our ice cream truck would agree, is that this is leading to some pockets of well above normal sea surface temperatures. Look at all this warm water. Again, here's our scale. Some pretty impressive areas of very warm water. So, you have the environment in place to enhance the potential for tropical low pressure systems because of our Gulf Stream here. Now, there's a lot of factors that we're going to watch out for. One of them will be the development of the Western Atlantic Ridge, because what happens is that when you get a very active Western Atlantic Ridge, it can lead to a push back westward of the Gulf Stream, which can enhance the potential for tropical low pressure systems being able to push northward and sustaining strength. The difference here is this, okay? I want to be very clear about this. The water temperatures off of the Delmarva Peninsula and New Jersey coast are not going to get to the point where it can support an intensification of a tropical low pressure system. But these low pressure systems tend to move quicker when they get up to our latitudes, which means that it spends less time over that cooler water and can still make a major impact. One hurricane type that scares me if it ever repeats itself is the 1936 hurricane that slammed into Long Island as a Category 3, moving at about 25 miles per hour. You get that today, it will be an epic, horrific disaster for Long Island, Connecticut, New York City, possibly New Jersey Shore as well. Because then you have a major hurricane slamming right into Long Island with all those people trying to leave the island. They don't have enough time. If that repeats itself, it'd be a horrendous disaster. One that I hope never happens. Let's see here. Looks like we did pretty good with our explanations. I really like the way that the Gulf Stream looks on here. Okay, so I'm going to take some final questions for tonight. And in the meantime, just let you know what's going on next week. I will be in Texas. So, obviously, no live chat. It should be interesting going out there. Have some business up there. Hopefully, no tornadoes. It would be my luck. But we'll see what happens with that, right? All those areas are built up far more than they were in 1936. Yeah, 1936, a lot of that stuff in Long Island, which was still massive damage, was farms. Now, like I said, the type of destruction, in fact, it was the hurricane was so strong it for a short time bisected Long Island. And consider that for a second there. It literally cut the island in half and allowed water from the Atlantic to reach the Long Island Sound. Didn't last long. It started to give way after a day or so. But think about that. And then throw in expensive billion-dollar homes with millions of people trying to get off that island. It would just be... like I said, I hope it never happens, but I can't. But it's unrealistic to say the least. You like to watch hockey? I honestly, you know what? My wife, not really. Okay, look, I have a hard time getting into hockey. I have nothing against it. I just have a hard time following the sport. Then again, I like baseball, so go figure, right? Baseball, the thing I love about it is I just kind of sit back. I enjoy the game. I don't think. Something I need to do more. And in football, I love the action of it, and I used to play. So, and in basketball, I used to like watching the college sport, but even that I've kind of dropped off on. Um, but mostly because I tried to play very poorly as a child, and then I came to the realization I wasn't getting any taller, which kind of shot my hopes of becoming a professional basketball player. That and the fact I didn't really dribble really well or had much of a jump shot. So got all those factors together. And in terms of hockey, well, I can't skate. So I never really got into hockey. So and I don't like to pretend. Like I know that well, I think the Rangers are doing really well. But I don't like to pretend that I'm like, yay, Rangers, because I hate when people do that about the Mets, and I know for a fact that they never watch the game, especially celebrities. So I give all respect to all the Ranger fans out there. I hope you guys win the Stanley Cup and all that stuff, and you drink out of the cup and all that stuff, whatever you guys do out there, and have a big, huge parade. But I don't want to pretend that I'm actually a fan, because I'm not, you know. Have you been surprised by the punch of the severe thunderstorms so far this year? Not really. Not really. Though, as I expected, the ones that actually reached severe levels have been impressive. And it's all part of the environment that we're in. So, but yeah, I mean, my thing with sports, I kind of stick to two. Baseball for the strategy, and football because I used to play. And you have to be passionate. See, like, I'm passionate about my Mets. Just ask anyone in the apartment complexes, I'm screaming after every home run. And footballs, too, with the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, I'm very passionate and excited about it. If I'm not excited or passionate about a sport, I'm kind of like, eh. You know, I can't really get into it. Same thing with the Olympics. I mean, go USA, whatever. I did enjoy the janitor Olympics. That was very, very fun. What is it called again? When they had the brooms and they got the rock. I forgot what it's called. But I did enjoy that. That was kind of fun because I could see myself actually pulling that off. But I'm very, very particular about my sports. Have a great weekend. Enjoy your trip to Texas. Thank you very much. I am going to have fun with this, in terms of going to Texas, because I plan on finding the best steak restaurant out there, and then I'm going to eat all the steak. So it is something that should be fun. Okay, so if we don't have any more questions, I'm going to call it a night. And I want to wish everyone a happy Memorial Day. I hope you guys have a great weekend. And as always, stay safe out there.